A rain and mist forest. Fu Shan Botanical Garden. When the world awakes in the rising sun, take a deep breath. You can inhale the joy of life and the vitality of nature. When entering Fu Shan Botanical Garden, visitors are immediately greeted with the aquatic garden. This garden was originally a low-lying wetland, but the garden headquarters diverted some water from Happen Creek into it from a large pond, which allows more diverse life forms to grow and flourish. Aquatic plants are the features of this garden. Plants that grow submerged are called submerged plants. Yellow water lily, an aquatic plant endemic to Taiwan, has small yellow flowers all the year round, with leaves floating on the surface of the water. In the garden are also emergent plants, bog bulrush and burreed. Both of them like to grow their leaves and stems out of the water and bask in warm sunlight. Emergent plants at the pond side serve as important sites for dragonflies to go through their incomplete metamorphoses. They also function as breeding grounds and mating and resting places for these species. Aquatic plants are primary producers in this ecosystem. They help to purify water and provide feeding and nesting grounds for many animals. Taiwan Zako, an endemic freshwater fish to Taiwan, is common in this aquatic garden. They breed in spring and summer. Female fish lay eggs in shallow water, while the male patrols nearby, driving potential threats away. The male fish show themselves off, chase rivals around, and fight for mating opportunities. Through the process of fierce competition, the best genes get to pass from generation to generation. Take a closer look, and you will find this garden full of vitality. Waterfowl are attracted to the pond by the abundant fish and shrimp. Little grebes have long dwelled here and raised their young in these floating nests. With their specialized web feet, little grebes are swift divers and agile swimmers. But the same webbed feet also deprive them of the ability to walk on land. They spend their whole life in the water, feeding, resting, mating, or breeding. Beautiful mandarin ducks are also frequenters of the aquatic garden. They are omnivores and can often be spotted rummaging for food along stream sides and in the pond. Take a bird's eye view of Fu Shan Botanical Garden, and you will discover that the whole botanical garden is situated in dense virgin forests. It systematically collects and preserves indigenous plants from low to middle elevations of Taiwan. Besides providing rich research materials and conserving forest resources, it is also designed as an educational garden where the public can learn more about the environment. Diverse and lush greenery have made Fu Shan Botanical Garden an important gene bank. Coming here is like entering a living forest museum. Taiwan has such a diversity of ferns that it deserves to be called a fern kingdom. With this in mind, the headquarters designed a fern garden to usher visitors into the fern world. Ferns are not only unique in their method of reproduction, observe them closely and you will find they have varied appearances, and their leaves or fronds span an amazing range of shapes. If you see a forest plant that has young, tightly coiled leaves, it is no doubt a fern. The more they are coiled, the more elegant they look. The gymnosperm garden collects varied common coniferous trees along with some rare species, such as Taidong cycads, Keteleria davidiana, and Taiwan red cypress. These gymnospermous species mostly exist in remote mountain regions, but visitors can get easy access to them here. The dicotyledon garden consists of plants that have polypetalous flowers and those that have gamopetalous flowers. Polypetalous flowers are those that have separate petals. The camellia family, rose family, and maple family are typical plants that have this type of flowers. The laurel family and the Fagaceae family are the two dominant collections in the polypetalous flower garden because they are the most flourishing and typical plants in the pristine forests of Taiwan. The so-called Laurofagaceae forests are the ones that consist chiefly of plants from these two families. Rhododendrons have always been popular among flowering plants. For this reason, a garden has been set up exclusively for these beautiful plants. Visitors can view many native species of rhododendrons in the rhododendron garden. Flowers having united petals are called gamopetalous flowers. Plants with gamopetalous flowers are regarded as more advanced species because they provide more protection to their ovules. The bamboo garden collects various kinds of bamboo and is definitely a feast for the eyes. This lush expanse of carpet grass is reserved for the herbaceous plants garden. Special Objective Plant Garden collects plants that are cultivated for special uses and are common in our daily lives. For example, jellyfig is rich in pectin, and Demonerops margaritae is weaving material for baskets and robes. Cyathea lepifera and Camellia oleifera also grow in the garden. In Fu Shan Botanical Garden, you can relax, enjoy nature, and breathe in fresh air. Your eyes can feast on the beautiful scenery. You can also know more about your favorite plants. When you go home, the pleasant scenery and fond memories will be enshrined in your heart. When you stand on the side of Hapen Creek and look up at the forest canopies, you are certain to utter sighs of admiration because there is a rich and varied epiphytic flora on each tree trunk. These epiphytic plants present themselves in a complex and multi-leveled way. Abundant rain is characteristic of the Fu Shan region. Typhoons and thunder showers in summer and northeast monsoon in winter all bring a considerable amount of rain here. More than 200 days of rain annually result in humid weather patterns, and subsequently, subtropical rainforests in Fu Shan have an explosion of species, especially epiphytes. The ecosystem here is so subtle and delicate that many life forms compete with and, at the same time, depend on each other. Together they establish an endless organic world. Now, let's go inside the forest and visit these diverse life forms. When you see the gigantic fronds of bird's nest fern curling around the tree trunks, what would you associate it with? These broad and long fronds are designed for intercepting more light and trapping fallen leaves and rain. When the trapped leaves are decomposed into humus, these plants can use the nutrients in it. Some vines and ferns climb around and use adventitious roots to secure themselves on the surface of other plants. Orchids have varied pseudobulbs, or aerial roots, which function as nutrients and water storage devices. The lower level of the forest is a crowded sub-ecosystem. The dense multi-layered canopies allow only limited sunlight to penetrate and reach the forest floor. Consequently, the struggles for survival here are fiercer. Trees are primary bodies of the forests. With layers upon layers of greenery, blooming flowers and fruits, the space of forests seem to extend endlessly outwards. An increase in plant diversity tends to lead to an increase in wildlife variety and populations. Each plant is a building block of other life forms. Starting from nibbles of insects on green leaves, energy gets passed down in the food chain. In the forest, blooming flowers provide plentiful sources of nectar for insects. In return, insects help pollinate flowers when feeding on nectar. Fruits and seeds are important food sources for birds and mammals. Through the assistance of birds and animals, seeds can be spread far and wide. Take macaques as an example. A macaque places nuts or fruits in its cheek pouch first and chew on them unhurriedly. When at last it spits out the seeds, it may have traveled as far as many miles. This process of seed spreading benefits both the macaque and the trees it feeds on. Seemingly useless, these old rotten trees are the favorite breeding grounds for beetles. Woodpeckers certainly wouldn't miss this chance of catching juicy grubs. Dead standing trees are also favorite nesting grounds for Muller's barbets. The rotten trees are decomposed by fungi and other microorganisms, and the nutrients they contain are released back to the forest soil. If you observe closely the interactions among forest organisms, you will soon discover that their relationship is like an interwoven web. All living things, both animals and plants, contribute to the health of the ecosystem and help create the diversified world we see today. When night falls and darkness approaches Fu Shan, bird songs in the daytime are replaced by insect chirps and frog croaks. It's time for nocturnal animals to take action. Flying squirrels are the night spirits. When the sky turns dark, they leave their tree holes, climb to the tip of the branches, and glide gracefully through the forest, searching for delicious buds and nuts. Katydids are experts in sound effects. They are also masters of disguise. Female moths release pheromones which attract the male, while male moths locate females by using their antennas to detect the trails of pheromone. With its humid and damp environment, Fu Shan not only has diverse insect species, but also boasts many amphibians. In the quiet and secluded forest, emerald tree frogs happily hide in the shade of lush green leaves, calling their mates. Eyefinger's tree frogs lay their eggs in waterlogged tree holes in which tiny tadpoles grow. As long as there are frogs flourishing, there will be snakes sneaking around and preying on them. Here is a green bamboo viper coiling on the tree branch, searching for prey. Those snakes who expose themselves unwarily will soon fall prey to a crested serpent eagle with razor-sharp talons. Under constant threats of their predators, animals keep developing better survival skills. Some use camouflage to fool enemies. Others use mimicry to deter attackers. Dazzling, outrageous colors serve as signs of warning. Each life form has its own unique way of living. This is how the forest gets its vitality and splendors. Strolling along the paved road, oftentimes wild animals can be seen unexpectedly. They skip across in the forest or forage for food leisurely, unafraid of the passing crowds. In Fu Shan, the distance between humans and nature seems to vanish. Such a wonderful experience should be cherished by us all. When the Indian black eagle circles quietly in the sky again, another scene of life is just about to unfold in tranquil Fu Shan.